how I hate China. Let me count the ways. That could just be my love for the good old USA and any country that provides democracy. So, like I always say, just be thankful where we live, no matter how bad you think you have it in some westernized democracy, no matter how much you're one of these weird SJWs whining about how bad it is. The US, the greatest place. I gotta give it up for my country. Individuals who have similar liberties, you gotta love yours as well. But let's check this out real quick and I'll tell you why I hate China so much. This is one of the many reasons. New York Times article here, China revises its Wuhan death toll by 50%. Chinese officials added 1,290 deaths in Wuhan, putting the new tally at 3,869. China revises its figures. Faced with mounting skepticism over its official figures, China on Friday revised its death toll. In the city where the shh first emerged, officials placed the new tally at 3,869 deaths from the thing in the central Chinese city of Wuhan, an increase of 1,290 or 50% from the previous figure. The number of confirmed infections in the city was also revised upwards to 50,333, an increase of 325. Officials in Wuhan said the revised death toll now includes those who died at home in the early days of the outbreak, as well as the deaths that were not properly reported by hospitals or registered on death certificates. The move appeared to be a response to growing questions about the accuracy of China's official numbers and calls to hold the country responsible for what has become a global health crisis. Dominic Raab, the British Foreign Secretary, told Reuters on Thursday that China would have to answer hard questions after the crisis about how the pandemic came about and how it could have been stopped earlier. President Emmanuel Macron of France told the Financial Times that there are clearly things that have happened that we don't know about. The CIA also told the White House that China's official figures are vastly understated, though it does not know the exact numbers. Current and former American intelligence officials say. Widespread reporting has shown that the Chinese authorities initially mismanaged and concealed the extent of the epidemic, before eventually swinging into action in late January to halt the spread of the virus. Beijing maintains that it has been transparent in its communications about the epidemic from the beginning. All right, I know, that's just one little thing, but you've probably seen some of these others, so let me show you what I've got here. And, before I get into this, there was actually a period of time, a couple years ago, where, in spite of things that we do know, human rights stuff, which I'll talk about here, that China was on my list of countries to visit. Never been. I've been to other countries in Asia. Been to Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore. Been to all those countries. And China was a place that I definitely would visit, as well as going back to a majority of those countries again. Maybe mix Vietnam in there. Maybe get Cambodia in there. India, I'm kind of iffy on it. I'd have to do a little more research on that, but China, it was definitely a place where I considered visiting. It was definitely on the list of places that I made that I would have visited at one point, like I said, a couple years ago. We know the history, the culture, all of the interesting places to see and things to do. I'm definitely right. It would have been a place that I would have visited. Now, I am no longer considering that, and that is a place that I never want to set foot in. And probably in making these videos, it's probably best that I don't. Hopefully, Hong Kong is able to maintain its independence, so at least I can get back there again someday. But here we go, check this out. Another reason to hate China. The UK paid $20 million for new coronavirus tests. They didn't work. Now remember, I did a video about some non-working tests and equipment that they had sent to Spain and Italy, and that was probably about a month ago I did that video. Facing a global scramble for materials, British officials bought millions of unproven kits from China in a gamble that became an embarrassment. 2 Chinese companies were offering a risky proposition. 2 million home test kits said to detect antibodies for the virus for at least 20 million, take it or leave it. The asking price was high, the technology was unproven, and the money had to be paid up front. And the buyer would be required to pick up the crate loads of test kits from a facility in China. Yet British officials took the deal, according to a senior civil servant involved, then confidently promised tests would be available at pharmacies in as little as 2 weeks. As simple as a pregnancy test, gushed British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. It has the potential to be a total game changer. There was one problem, however. The test did not work. Found to be insufficiently accurate by a laboratory at Oxford University, 500,000 of the tests are now gathering dust in storage. Another 1.5 million bought at a similar price from other sources have also gone unused. The fiasco has left embarrassed British officials scrambling to get at least some of the money. The ill-starred purchases are in some ways a parable of the risks in the escalating scrum among competing governments racing for an edge in the fight against the pandemic. The still emerging tests for antibodies formed in response to the virus are the next stage in the battle. By enabling public health officials to assess where the disease has spread and who might have some immunity, widespread use of the tests is seen as a critical step in determining how and when to lift lockdowns, currently paralyzing societies and economies in much of the world. Hey, in China, though, I don't think that in the beginning they could have seen this happening when they let this thing spread, when they decided not to tell everybody. I don't think that the master plan could have been, hey, 2.5 months down the road, we're going to have all these developed westernized or first world nations fighting over supplies and coming to us to buy supplies. Therefore, we can sell them crappy supplies that don't work. I don't think that even in their wildest dreams they could have imagined that this situation would happen, but it's happened. And countries are fighting over stuff, and guess who's got some, working or not, right? And so that's one of many reasons, but let's see what else I've got. And you likely have heard of some of these. African nations, U.S. decry racism against blacks in China. Interesting, the things that will get people off their butts, right? Now, what happened in here, we're going to skip this. We're not going to read the whole article. Like I said, I'm sure that a lot of you are familiar with this, but it went viral. I guess they weren't allowing Africans there to go into McDonald's. They had some individual, there was even a video of it, where they were holding up a sign. The sign said, sorry, you can't come into this restaurant because of what your color is or your ethnicity. Now, on top of that, I heard they were also kicking individuals out of their apartments. They were going door to door in some areas, kicking individuals out of their apartments, and some hotels weren't allowing them to sleep in the hotels either. So basically they were homeless and they couldn't even get any McDonald's. There you go. That's something else. All right, what else do we got? This here from the Central Tibetan Administration. So obviously they're going to have a bias their way, but China's suppression of Tibet continues. This is from 2019, so Human Rights Report in 2019. We don't really hear too much about this anymore. Obviously you've heard about this in the past though, but it looks like things are par for the course there, same as they always were. Again, this is an August 2019 source, so take it for what you will. Again, it's from Tibet itself, so we'll have to look to see if there are other sources to back this up and things that are a little bit more recent. Okay, what else do we got? The fate of the Uyghur Muslims in China, from re-education camps to forced labor. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but according to a recent report published by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, it's the ASPI, between 2017 and 2019, the Chinese government facilitated the transfer of Uyghur Muslims and other ethnic minorities from Xinjiang to factories in various parts of China. The allegations come several months after the situation in Xinjiang hit the headlines with reports of the mass incarceration of Uyghur Muslims in so-called re-education camps. According to them, there are an estimated 1 million, if not more, Uyghur Muslims detained in so-called re-education camps, which are designed to strip them of their religious and ethnic identity and replace it with absolute loyalty to the state. According to the ASPI report, there are strong indications that some 80,000 Uyghurs have been forced to work in factories that form part of the supply chains of at least 83 global brands, including Abercrombie & Fitch, Acer, Adidas, Alstom, Amazon, Apple, Asus. You get the point, it goes on and on and on, and these are all major brands here. So what are these companies doing about it? I don't know. The report suggests that these companies have been using forced Uyghur labor in their supply chains. As a result, they could find themselves in breach of laws which prohibit the importation of goods made with forced labor. Among the International Labor Organization, the ILO, forced labor indicators, the report identified the following factors as relevant for the case of Uyghur Muslims: being subjected to intimidation and threats, such as the threat of arbitrary detention and being monitored by security personnel and digital surveillance tools, being placed in a position of dependency and vulnerability, such as threats to family members back in Xinjiang, having freedom of movement restricted, such as by fenced-in factories and high-tech surveillance, isolation, such as living in segregated dormitories and being transported in dedicated trains, abusive working conditions, such as political indoctrination, police guard posts in factories, military-style management, and a ban on religious practices, excessive hours, such as after-work Mandarin language classes and political indoctrination sessions that are part of job assignments. Hey, look, it goes on and on. I don't doubt that you individuals out there know far more about this than I do, and you can probably send me links to tons of other examples, but these are just things that are recent. So again, that Chinese vacation, never going to happen. I never want to set foot in that country. I'm even going to be horrible, and I'm going to go against AOC in our own country, and I'm not going to go to any Chinese restaurants here in the United States after the lockdown because I'm horrible. I'm so despicable. I'm just kidding. There's some really good places out there. New Moon in Glendale. If you're ever out in that area in Glendale, California, New Moon. It's a really good restaurant. That being said, God, I mean, come on. Jesus, how much more evidence do we need? I know I'm beating the drum. I really hope that China gets theirs because of this. I hope that other nations really band together and something like this whole situation with the rumors, I hope this is really something where countries really wake up and hit China where it hurts. And that's economically, obviously, moving production elsewhere, bringing factory jobs back home to whatever country that it may be, and then again taking a look at all of these human rights violations. I'm a simple man. I've got simple needs. I'm just asking people to be held accountable. Despicable individuals like this, but hey, the Chinese vacation's off. I can't go there until things change. So thanks for watching the video, everybody. Let me know what you think. Take care, everybody, and be well.